This is Global Business. Hello and a warm welcome from Nairobi. I am Peninah Karibe. Let's begin with a look at the markets. The JSE was in positive territory this morning as it continues to digest the decision by Moodys Investors Service on Friday to change South Africa's outlook from stable to negative, a move that was highly priced in by the market. Moodys sent a warning that a downgrade could follow in the next 12 to 18 months or sooner if the government doesn't come up with a credible budget in February. A downgrade to junk status on the local currency rating could trigger large outflows from South African government bonds as they would be ejected from the benchmark World Government Bond Index. The oil share gained 0.41% to close at 26,041.06 points. Coming up on the show tonight, South Africa has 3 months to shape up or risk a junk status credit downgrade. Egypt rolls out the second phase pilot of universal free healthcare. And Saudi Arabia confirms the listing date for its giant oil corporation. Global ratings firm Moodys has given South Africa 3 months to deliver a credible plan to stabilize its finances and tackle the risks posed by its state-owned enterprises. Failure to convince Moodys of an upturn in South Africa's economy could result in a further downgrade. Moodys left South Africa on the brink of junk status on Friday, revising the outlook on the country's last investment-grade credit rating from stable to negative. The negative outlook means South Africa may have a 12 to 18-month period in which a downgrade could be delivered, but it could come sooner if Moodys is not impressed by the fiscal picture presented at the next budget statement in February next year. The Finance Ministry has responded, saying the country has a narrow window to demonstrate faster and concrete implementation of reforms. Sumitra Naidu is following developments for us and joins us live from Johannesburg. Sumitra, what reactions are you getting to the decision by Moodys?
Yes, Peninah. Well, on the markets, we're seeing a bit of a relief rally. The rand started losing ground on Wednesday last week when the finance minister delivered the medium-term budget, revealing a massive debt position of almost 60% to GDP and a lower growth forecast of just 0.5% for this year. Now, at that point, there was a growing consensus that a downgrade was almost certain. The currency has bounced back, recovering most of those losses, up about 1.5% today, as investors felt some relief that Moodys didn't actually downgrade the country to junk. However, the majority of economists, analysts, any expert that you speak to feel like we're fighting a losing battle. The situation is quite serious and it's going to be really hard to escape a downgrade in the next few months.
All right, Sumitra, so you're painting for us a gloomy picture going forward. Moodys has revised the downgrade to stable negative, but just take us through that process, Sumitra. How far away is a downgrade to junk at this point?
Well, that's it, Peninah. We're on the last rung of investment grade. We're just one notch away from sub-investment. The next move is junk, unless we make an immediate turnaround. What was really worrying in that Moodys statement is that, the ratings agency noted that there was a material risk that the government will not succeed in arresting the deterioration of its financial position through a revival in economic growth and fiscal consolidation measures. That in itself is saying, we will give you another chance, but we don't see how you're going to pull it off. And that's because we heard about a number of austerity measures in the budget last week, cutting back on spending, but there was very little plan or detail on how government is going to actually revive this economy, lift tax revenues, or arrest the unemployment incline. How exactly is this debt burden, which is expected to hit over 70% in the next 3 years, how is that going to be tackled? So many questions, and how they're actually going to do this is going to be something to watch. And over the next 3 months is not much time.
And I'm throwing that, Sumitra, right back at you. 3 months for the finance minister to deliver a credible plan to stabilize the finances. Can he really do it? Is it feasible?
I think that's the big question at this point. So the next review is in March, but the ratings agency did say it may look at it in the next 12 to 18 months, which is more of a reprieve for South Africa. The next 3 months feels like nothing short of a miracle. Remember that the finance minister still has to get buy-in for all of his plans from his colleagues and in Parliament. He already said it was going to be tough to convince the party to make the hard decisions needed here, like letting go of state-owned entities that are draining the fiscus, labour reforms, also a really touchy issue for the unions, and the unions pull a lot of weight. It's going to be quite a task in stabilising the ship. Many seem to think this is the Titanic. In the meantime, we're hemorrhaging foreign direct investment. According to Merrill Lynch, investment grade only investors now hold only around $2 billion worth of South African currency bonds, and that's down from $10 billion, which we had about 3 years ago. If we get downgraded, South Africa will immediately get kicked off the World Government Bond Index. It will be quite severe for us, and it doesn't look like South Africa has a real concrete, substantial plan to actually get this ship back on track.
Not a very good picture, Sumitra. Thank you for that. Sumitra Naidu live for us there in Johannesburg. Now let's stay in South Africa for a bit. It is first establishing itself as a reputable, well-renowned BPO destination. The country's international call center industry has over the years seen rapid growth, creating vast opportunities. CGTN's Angela Coppola now explores how international firms from Amazon to Google are considering South Africa as a gateway to other African markets.
The National Department of Trade and Industry is the key driver of the incentive that got the big global corporate players to consider South Africa and specifically Cape Town when looking for a home for their international call center operations.
I think we've got over 56,000 people working in the various BPO sectors in Cape Town itself. A lot of companies are investing, a lot of companies are coming over to South Africa because they find it's much cheaper to run the businesses from here, as well as the government has made a lot of funding available for BPO startups.
Just in terms of, I think, the value proposition of South Africa, typically it was predicated on, low-end customer service voice opportunities, and especially in source markets like the UK and Australia, there's strong cultural affinity, there's a strong sense of, and a lot of deals have actually been won on a strong sense of customer empathy and the ability of our local people to relate to customers in distressful situations.
Then there's the wide range of languages that the locals can speak and understand.
There are skilled individuals available that we could access very easily in Cape Town. In addition, we can also service other foreign languages such as Dutch, English, French, and Hebrew also in Cape Town.
The Department of Trade and Industry incentives are then managed and implemented at the regional and provincial level, with other spin-offs.
With every brand or operator that we manage to bring over to South Africa and Cape Town, we've got massive job creation opportunities happening, as well as the upskilling, cross-skilling and reskilling of previously disadvantaged, previously unemployed youth.
I think the call center industry or the service center industry really creates jobs from the bottom up. So you'll start as a customer service consultant, and you can work your way into any different fields such as marketing, human resources, because most of the BPO companies provide training and skills development. Services CETA also helps us with funding to empower employees to grow within the organizations, as well as the government funding which is available.
People place calls to call centers because they've got problems that they want to resolve fairly quickly, and South African consultants in those call centers seem to have the knack to do just that. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
The World Bank's Vice President for the Africa region has concluded his first visit to Somalia. During the visit, Hafez Ghanem praised the progress made by the Horn of African nation and its people. Ghanem also witnessed the opening of a new World Bank office, as CGTN's Abdulaziz Bello now reports.
The World Bank has opened its offices in Mogadishu in a major boost for the government. The Vice President of the Global Money Lending Institution unveiled the offices during his first visit to the Horn of African nation. Authorities say the move is a testament of increased donor confidence in its finance reform program.
Our objective is really to invest much more in Somalia, to create more jobs, more opportunities for the young Somali people. We need to capitalize on this energy, on Somalia's youth, on Somalia's diaspora, to rebuild the new Somalia, to support growth by investing in the digital economy, in ICT, in energy, and in different areas.
The government has in recent years stepped up efforts in seeking arrears clearance from leading financial institutions. Somalia says it expects positive outcome next year as the country approaches the decision point for the heavily indebted poor countries program.
We really thank the World Bank and its engagement for the last many years. Through thick and thin, you have been with us. We are in that program of SMB4, and as you very well know and noted today, we are cleaning everything, and we are doing everything possible on our side to be able to finalize our SMB program benchmarks. Number of very critical benchmarks have already been done.
Last year, World Bank announced an $80 million grant for Somalia to help strengthen its financial sector and improve service delivery, marking the first disbursement to Mogadishu in 30 years. Meanwhile, the country's cabinet endorsed a draft budget for 2020 worth more than $460 million, up from $168 million in 2016. Various sectors received a boost, including security, education, and healthcare.
When we took over, government budget stood at $168 million. Since then, each year, we saw an increase of more than $70 million. Last year, we recorded more than $120 million included into the budget. Based on this, we hope to have our arrears cleared by February.
Analysts attribute recent financial progress to an increase in domestic revenue and proper tax collection. Mogadishu now says its path to financial reforms remains on track. The country's president recently signed an anti-corruption bill into law, the latest in efforts to tackle graft in one of the world's most corrupt nations. Abdulaziz Bilo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Getting the most out of any coffee machine is as much about choosing the right type of coffee. Although there's a huge variety of coffee out there, Ugandan scientists say the country's robusta coffee has an edge over other coffees in the sub-Saharan African region. But what exactly defines a good coffee? CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga finds out.
A taste of quality. Yvette Agaba has sampled a variety of coffees from sub-Saharan Africa, but she enjoys the Ugandan varieties better.
With the many times I've cup-tested coffees, I think Uganda has a very good advantage and very good coffees, yes, on the market compared to Kenya and Ethiopia and Burundi. Ethiopia is very good.
And Ugandan scientists agree with her preference.
We tested the cup quality on we use the scale, the quality specialty coffee, the Specialty Coffee Association of American quality scale. And on this scale, our coffee was scoring above 80%. And normally, any coffees that score on that scale above 80% qualifies for a premium coffee.
But what defines good coffee?
Among these properties, we look for the body, the acidity, and the different flavor notes that are found in very many different cups.
Walking through this shop with its variety of coffees, the aromas are thick and chocolatey. But the taste is up to the customers. Arion Wambali is a passionate coffee drinker.
When I come to Mukago Coffee, it is purely a blend of both Robusta coffee and Arabic coffee, and I like the flavors. They are wow.
Baristas are now brewing a variety of flavors to attract more coffee lovers like Arion. The flavors include cappuccino, latte, and macchiato, among others.
We not only serve a coffee, but we go ahead and look out for the good quality coffee. We have excellent roasters who do that, and we also have excellent baristas. I mean, the brewing technique is up there.
Uganda produces 80% Robusta coffee and 20% Arabica, but much of the coffee is exported. And while some coffee lovers are keen and selective on the origin of the beverage, many others care less as long as they get a cup of their daily dose of caffeine. Hilary Ayesiga, CGTN, Kampala.
A look at your corporate news now. And South Africa's largest grocer, Shoprite Holdings, has managed a 7.3% rise in its quarterly revenue. The group's core South African business in the period grew about 10.3%, gaining market share led by its USIV division. However, for the 3 months to September, Shoprite saw a decline of roughly 4.9% in its international operations. This was due to currency devaluations and xenophobic attacks. Saudi Aramco has announced plans to go public in what could be the largest initial stock offering ever. The world's most profitable company says it plans to sell an unspecified percentage of its shares on the Riyadh Stock Exchange. According to sources, Saudi Aramco is currently aiming for a valuation of between $1.6 trillion and $1.8 trillion. We'll bring you an extensive update on this a little later on the show. Meanwhile, Kenya's telecoms giant Safaricom is considering lowering the customer charges on its M-Pesa overdraft facility for Liza and M-Shwari loans. The company says the move is part of its larger plan to add more features on its M-Pesa platform. It also comes amid pressure for the Kenyan government to curb unregulated digital mobile lenders who charge huge monthly interest rates. And shares of American fast food giant McDonald's have plunged after the firm announced it had fired its CEO for having a consensual relationship with an employee. The stock, which has a market value of about $149 billion, opened down at 1.9% on Monday. Steve Easterbrook, who became McDonald's CEO and president in 2015, was ousted after the firm's board of directors found that he violated company policy. And that's a look at some of your corporate news. This is Global Business. We're taking a short break. Coming up. Egypt rolls out the second phase pilot of universal free healthcare. And African companies all set for the second China International Import-Export.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business, only on CGTN.
Every story starts out like this.
Okay. We'll head up now.
But beyond the rush of the numbers, there's always a more fundamental question. What happened? Who has been affected? When market-moving decisions are made, who's responsible and why?
Let's get some reaction on ground. Joining us in Johannesburg is Sutra. Hello, Naro.
This is how all stories begin. See how they end. Only on Global Business. Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and Global Business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Egypt will launch the second pilot phase of its health insurance system in Luxor and South Sinai Governorate starting March 2020. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has instructed his government to kick off the process in efforts to digitize procedures in the new comprehensive health insurance program. President Sisi also directed the stakeholders to organize simplified awareness campaigns to publicize the new health system. The healthcare insurance has been planned to cover all of Egypt's administrative regions in 6 phases by 2032. All right, Adel Mahru is following this story for us and joins us live from Cairo. Adel, this implementation of the second phase of this new health insurance scheme was supposed to be launched in 2021 going all the way to 23, but now government says it has brought it forward to March next year. Why?
So basically the first phase has not been fully implemented. So it was only launched with one governorship, Port Said City, one of the coastal cities of the Suez Canal. And it was just the preliminary phase, a test phase to see how this system will evolve. And with Port Said, according to the phase 1 plans, there were four other cities with it. So that's 5 governorships in phase 1. But instead of moving forward with a plan that should have extended until the end of 2020, the government decided to give another test to other regions in the country. So they're going to South Sinai and Luxor City, all the way to the south of the country, where a different segment of society, dominant ruler physique of the built-up socio-demographic structure of that part of the country as well. And it's only a pilot stage, so there is still a lot of moving forward going ahead. The pilot stage is just a test phase through which citizens will be asked to register. As you've mentioned, President El-Sisi asked to have very simple campaigns to explain to the citizens what does this new insurance healthcare system provides. And that's why it's just taking it step by step to make sure that when the phases progresses, by the time the government decides to cover the entire governorships within that phase, then the public will be aware. So basically it's just a phase out to test new waters, if I can say that, to see how that health insurance service will affect other segments of the society.
So, Adel, what are the new services under this new scheme? What will citizens now enjoy?
So citizens now will be all included in the healthcare insurance. So just to give you a quick brief, Egypt, about 60% of Egypt are covered by the public health insurance sector, which means that only government employees, only students in schools are under that system and can be given healthcare by the government facilities. That leaves 40% of Egyptians out of any healthcare insurance. And even if for those 60%, it means that they're not getting full coverage as well. They have to pay some finances. The services they get are not so up to standards. What is happening is that they will get full medical standard, very high tech will be introduced. There will be a system to monitor health clinics, to monitor public hospitals and rate them. And if they drop in these ratings, they will not be taking the grants given from the health insurance system. So first of all, better healthcare. The citizens will have unlimited healthcare services with no spending cap. That's also an addition. And it's looking at Egyptians as families rather than individuals. Either they are within the health insurance system or not. Now all the families will be included, and each person will be paying for that sum, for part of that sum of the health insurance they will be receiving.
So this is obviously a very huge investment project by the government. How much money has it set aside for this, and is it financially sustainable?
Well, that's what the government wants to test. Is it financially sustainable or not? So every 4 years, there will be an evaluation of the spendings, the government spendings, and the healthcare provided to see if it is of any financial significance. But just the initial plan, it looks very promising. The government has allocated 160 billion Egyptian pounds. That's roughly 10 billion US dollars until 2032. So we're talking about a very long distance here. We're talking about 13 years approximately, through which the government will allocate that budget, $10 billion, to cover this new healthcare system all across the government, all across the country, sorry. And to give you a comparison of how does this lift the burden of the government, the budget for the health ministry in the new fiscal year is about $4.5 billion, just 1 year. So within 3 years, the government will be paying what it has allocated for the next 13 years for the health insurance system. That will represent roughly 1/3 of the cost of the healthcare, according to the budget the government studies, which means that the government will go all the way from spending $4.5 billion annually to just about 1.7. That's rough estimate. Now, that doesn't mean that people will not paying. People will be paying. They will be paying an amount from their salaries, 1% for employees, 3% for employers, and for the rest of the family members, 2.5% for the for the housewife if she's not working, and for the kids, 0.75. That leaves roughly about 6 to 7% of the income for an Egyptian to cover his whole family to be included. So there's a lot of money getting induced into this new system by the individuals themselves.
All right, Adel, thank you for that. Adel Makri live for us there in Cairo. Now, the second China International Import-Export, or CIIE, kicks off in Shanghai from November 5th to the 10th. World leaders will attend the opening ceremony as well as other events at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. French President Emmanuel Macron will visit China on Monday, his second visit since he took office 2 years ago. Serbian Prime Minister Ana Brnabić and Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness arrived in Shanghai Sunday. Serbia is the first country in Central and Eastern Europe to establish a comprehensive strategic partnership with China, while Jamaica has been designated a guest of honor at the CIIE. At this year's CIIE, a total of 8 African countries and 206 companies from 43 African nations will showcase local products at the exhibitions. For those attending, the CIIE will not only be a good opportunity to open up the Chinese market, but also promote their own growth and development. Among the products on offer are African wines, Ethiopian coffee, Egyptian handicrafts, Tunisian olive oil, and Zambian honey. Countries and businesses with special tourism resources such as Egypt, South Africa, and Kenya are also expected to sell specially designed tourist packages for Chinese tourists. For those who did attend the expo last year, such as tea merchant Karanja, it was an opportunity to gain direct access to the Chinese market. He says tea companies from Fujian province signed an order to purchase 60,000 kilograms of his green tea and committed to working with him to build a model factory.
The willingness of China government to import goods from the rest of the world is very much welcome. We want to sell tea to China, and it's always good, and you'll be very happy, and it looks as if it will happen, that they'll be able to buy more and more of our tea. And we shall really appreciate, and this will now to uplift the living standard of the people who are here.
I think that CIE is a very big opportunity for African businesses because it helps the small and medium enterprises realize their dreams by being given an opportunity to export their products to China, and also China using its technical advice helping these small medium enterprises scale up and become profitable.
South Africa is taking part in the second China International Import-Export. At the event, which is scheduled to run from the 5th to the 10th of November in Shanghai, South Africa will showcase a large variety of olive oil and other products. The demand for premium olive products in China is high, and the event will provide export opportunities for South Africa firms targeting China and Asian markets. In addition, it will also bolster job creation in the South African olive industry.
What we hope to achieve there is to see that there is demand for our product in China, and that we can grow the extra virgin olive oil market in China. If only 1% of the 1.4 billion population in China is interested in our product, then that's already a big part for us. And from there we can grow into other Asian markets, which will all help to increase growth within those countries and within South Africa itself.
The China International Import-Expo is a portal for new goods replacing products held up by the China-US trade war. CGTN's Martin Lowe spoke to one company about why the expo is an event not to be missed.
Companies around the globe see China as a major target market. In 2017, China imported goods worth $1.7 trillion, making it the world's second largest importer. In Southeast Asia, China is already the #1 export destination for products made in Thailand. For many Thai businesses, the China International ImportExpo, part of China's Belt and Road drive to stimulate global trade, is an opportunity for expansion and a firm date in their marketing diaries. This Thai healthcare manufacturer attended the first CIIE in 2018 and is present again this year. Its best-selling product is herbal toothpaste.
China, the market size is the second biggest in the world now, and there is a lot of product that Chinese like to import. But I think this event is actually a good place to start, and a good place for them to actually showcase for the whole market as a whole. Everybody interested in import anything from outside China.
The export of Thai organic products to China is worth $2.5 billion a year and is part of a far larger trading partnership. Although only in its second year, many companies seeking to enter the Chinese market see the CIIE as a must-attend event. Two-way trade between China and Thailand is worth $80 billion a year, with both countries hoping to increase that to $100 billion. Thailand's top three exports to China are rubber, machinery and plastics, with a combined annual total of $12 billion. China's top sales to Thailand are electronics, power generation components and iron and steel, amounting to $26 billion. Two-thirds of Thailand's wealth comes from exports. And with China its major trading partner, it's an important relationship for both countries, a partnership that's helped many companies achieve growth. Martin Low, CGTN, Samut Prakan, Thailand.
Shifting focus, China-Cuba bilateral trade relations have grown over the past years, with the island expanding its traditional portfolio of products to include modern technologies. Luis Chirinos takes a look at some of the latest that Cuba has to offer for the Chinese market.
China is a top trading partner to Cuba, and for years the Chinese market has been familiar with Cuban traditional products such as premium cigars, selected rums, sugar and metals like nickel. But the development of the Cuban biotech industry has made it possible to also export cutting-edge technology to China, such as cancer vaccines, which have been successfully administered on the island hospitals. Vice President for the Cuban pharmaceutical conglomerate BioCuba Pharma says strengthening the sector is a priority.
We have proven our willingness and capacity to transfer technology to China. In this sector, BioCuba Pharma has made 10 technology transfers to China and has set up 3 joint ventures.
Since the Cuba China Joint Working Group on Biotechnology Conference in March, new trade projects have been implemented in the biotech sector.
We are negotiating new ventures, and we have several joint labs in the area of neurosciences, and we want to set up a biotechnology research and development center in China.
While in Havana for the biotech conference, Chinese officials and entrepreneurs toured Cuban biotech facilities of commercial interest for both China and Cuba. According to official Cuban statistics, last year exports to China reached nearly $500 million, while imports from China surpassed the $2 billion. Cuba hopes to further increase and diversify its trade with the Asian nation. Luis Chirino, CGTN, Havana.
You're watching Global Business. Still ahead. Saudi Arabia confirms the listing date for its giant oil corporation. And the UK begins another hotly charged week ahead of Brexit-triggered elections in December.
Business in Africa is at the crossroads. We celebrate those who are adopting and thriving despite the challenges, from grassroots to big businesses. Global Business takes you along for the ride as we track the making of a giant.
only on CGTN.
Economic data out of the country. The country's foreign currency reserves.
With a dedicated and diverse team of anchors, CGTN now brings Africa to the palm of your hand.
I'm Peninah Karibe in the heart of Nairobi, which is bustling.
From everyday heroes to the continent's most powerful figures, we bring their voices to you.
We haven't changed. And this is something most of us are very excited about.
We bring you news that's changing perspectives. News that brings Africa to the world. CGTN. See the difference. How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Accra is my kind of city. That's because when I'm here, I feel like I'm back home in Lagos or Abidjan, which are two of the major cities I grew up in.
Business in Africa is
After about a decade covering business news on the continent, I've learned it's all about the high risk, but also the high returns and the high energy. You simply have to adjust in order to keep pace. When I started out as a journalist, my dream was to open people's minds to the different perspectives. From the CEO in the boardroom to the trader out in the street, we all have different stories. From Accra to Addis Ababa, from Cairo to Cape Town, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Here at CGTN, we realize that Africa is on the move, and it's moving fast, but we're moving right along with it. I'm Ucheo Koronkwo, and I'm a business anchor and reporter at CGTN.
Welcome back to Global Business. Let's have a look at other stories making headlines this hour. At least one person is confirmed dead and another 6 people are missing after the boat in which they were traveling capsized on Lake Albert in western Uganda. Major reports say the victims were all traders sailing to the Democratic Republic of Congo. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir is scheduled to meet his Ugandan counterpart Yoweri Museveni and the head of Sudan's Sovereign Council Abdel Fattah al-Burhan this week. The leaders will be seeking a way forward in the peace process. South Sudan's peace deal provides for the formation of a unity government by Tuesday next week, but the main opposition group says it won't be part of that government unless security sector reforms are complete. And jihadist violence is escalating in the Sahel as security continues to deteriorate across the region. In Burkina Faso, 4 people, including the deputy mayor of the town of Djibo, have been killed. Armed militants reportedly ambushed the mayor's car on Sunday. This is the latest in a series of attacks in the north of Burkina Faso. It comes 3 days after an attack in neighboring Mali, where militants killed more than 50 people. ISIL has claimed responsibility for the Mali attack. And that's a wrap of our day's top stories. As I had mentioned a little earlier on the show, Saudi Aramco has kick-started its long-awaited initial public offering. Over the weekend, the state-owned oil giant announced its intention to float on Riyadh's main exchange. The move is part of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's ambitions to overhaul Saudi Arabia's oil-reliant economy. CGTN's Jacob Greaves explains.
The world's largest oil company will be listed on Saudi Arabia's main stock exchange. The date being set for the prospectus to be released is the 9th of November. That's according to Saudi Aramco's CEO. As for some of the key details, such as how much will be available to investors, how many shares, and when all of this is actually set to happen, well, we don't know that just yet. Aramco say more details will be made public at the end of the book building process. Now, we do know this will happen in two tranches, one for institutional investors, another for individuals. Reuters sources say Aramco is eyeing between 1 to 2% of flotation on the Saudi stock exchange initially. That could be valued between $20 to $40 billion. Aramco was expected to officially launch its IPO offering on October the 20th, but that was delayed, so Aramco could lock in key investors, according to Reuters sources. That was just one of several delays we've seen to Aramco's planned IPO since it was first touted. It is just around 7 weeks since Aramco's oil production capacity was drawn into sharp focus as two attacks on its key infrastructure initially cut 5% of global oil supply. More than 24 banks are said to be handling this blockbuster IPO on what could amount to the biggest IPO of all time. But of course, that greatly depends on how much Aramco actually ends up offering to investors. Jacob Greaves, CGTN in Dubai.
Let's shift focus now to Brexit. Political parties in the UK are gearing up for the first December general election in almost a century. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says he's ready to fight a tough battle. This is as he seeks a fresh mandate for his Brexit deal to leave the EU, as well as break the current deadlock in Parliament. From London, here's CGTN's Richard Bestick.
It's going to be a frantic week ahead for Britain's political parties as they tune up for a general election that, in the sloganeering of UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, is intended to just get Brexit done. Johnson formally kicking off his campaign Wednesday when Parliament rises for the election. He's expected to launch a broadside on the Labour opposition's economic credibility. In truth, after years of austerity in Britain, both Conservatives and Labour will this week be tempting voters with promises of the biggest spending splurge in decades. Credit card cash for just about everything imaginable. Don't be dazzled, however. At the heart of it all remains Britain's Brexit crisis. In an effort to stop Johnson's Brexit plans, a number of smaller parties that support remaining in the European Union are to reveal this week a political pact in up to 60 seats where they'll promise to step aside and give a single party a shot at winning. And for Boris Johnson, the omens have been clouded a little bit further, with two opinion polls suggesting the Labour opposition is closing the gap. There's a long way to go, but here in the UK, the political temperature is rising and the rhetoric getting hot.
Germany is set to roll out a vast network of electric car charging points to encourage drivers to make the switch and meet its climate targets. The country's government is aiming to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030. Germany aims at increasing the number of charging stations to 1 million. It also wants to increase the number of zero-emission electric cars on the roads to between 7 and 10 million. In its reform plan, the government will install battery charging stations at supermarkets and petrol stations.
We will best manage this change if we have free, rule-based global trade and if protectionism is not on the agenda, especially in times of structural upheaval. This is of the utmost importance, and the federal government will fight for this free, rule-based trade wherever we can.
China's State Council announced plans in August to expand the Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone to include the Lingang new area. Lingang has since been striving to compete with such economic zones as Tokyo Bay and Marina Bay in Singapore. CGTN reporter Lin Nan has the details.
A step closer to the first Shanghai-made Tesla car, the first 200 kilovolt transmission line to power the Tesla Shanghai Gigafactory was up and running in October. It uses 55 kilometers of cable and about 17 kilometers of ducts. The project took less than 6 months to complete.
The construction period was very short and there was some extreme weather. We got involved in the project early and offered our service proactively so we could understand and deal with its demands at different stages of construction.
The Tesla Gigafactory is the U.S. carmaker's first overseas production line, and it was put together at lightning speed. Trial production began in October, just 10 months after the plant broke ground in Shanghai's Lingang New Area.
We want to use the Tesla project as a model to promote its experience and models on a larger scale, improving the overall speed of doing business in Shanghai to Tesla speed.
Lingang formally became part of the Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone in August. It has unveiled 50 preferential policies related to administrative approvals, finance, taxation, industrial development, and housing to make it a more friendly place to do business and live. The Lingang New Area will be benchmarked against high international standards and common practices to compete with the top free trade zones worldwide and help further open up the Chinese economy. The German automation company Lenze registered in Lingang in 2006. Company executives say the new personnel and housing policies have helped them attract more talents, and they've now moved their Asia Research and Development Center to Lingang.
Our production is very big this year, and we need a lot more workers. The local government has introduced us to the job market and provided public rental housing and subsidies to workers. The government has more service awareness and works more efficiently.
The new area promises to offer easier capital flow, improved transport, and relaxed regulations for personnel and communications. Authorities say its experience can be promoted nationwide to stimulate the country's reform and opening up. Linan, CGTN, Shanghai.
Smartphone addiction among young people is a major problem globally. In South Korea, teenagers are so addicted to their handsets that they're going to detox centers to seek help. CGTN's Jack Patton paid a visit to one of those camps and brings you the following report.
We've been asked not to use real names or reveal identities at this government-run camp. One of 16 across South Korea, helping teenage boys and girls break their addiction to mobile phones.
According to government figures, 98% of South Korean teens used a mobile device in 2018, during which time the Ministry for Communications Technology also warned that about 30% of 10 to 19-year-olds were classified as over-dependent.
The focus here is on group activities and mandatory counselling sessions. A counsellor asks what is causing stress in their lives. A 13-year-old boy answers that he feels physically underdeveloped and frail. Later, he tells me his parents sent him here because of marathon gaming sessions on his phone.
I get very irritated when I play games. So when my mom asks me a question, I answer with an irritated voice, which gets me into fights with my mom.
Initially, he wanted to leave. A common reaction according to supervisors.
When students come here to the camp for the first time, they're nervous. And to adapt to this, the different environment, you can see a very exploratory atmosphere. And here you can see behaviour such as rejection on their part because they can't use the internet or a smartphone.
Staff here witness positive change. But no, a 12-day break from phones isn't enough.
The most important thing is to maintain this in their real life. After this camp, each province has a teenage counselling programme, and we are connected to these groups that can then keep counselling them for 2 months. The students are encouraged to keep up the counselling, even when they return to their normal lives.
This young man has moved beyond his early resistance.
I'm trying to put all my effort into spending less time on the internet and having fewer fights with my mom.
In the t-shirt making sessions, his design is the word dream. It's the name of his group at the camp. which has become a band of real friends sharing real experiences that supervisors hope will provide a foundation to succeed back in the real world where there is no chance at all of avoiding phones, but perhaps some chance of learning to control their overuse. Jack Barton, CGTN, Muju in South Korea.
Let's look at the commodities market now. Oil prices edged up slightly today after rising expectations of a US-China trade deal boosted benchmarks in the previous session. Prices had jumped about $2 a barrel on Friday after the world's top two economies said they had made progress on trade talks, while US officials said the deal could be signed this month. Gold, on the other hand, the prices were steady as the greenback eased in a soft manufacturing survey, capping gains for the safe haven bullion. Still ahead on Global Business. We visit the first fish hatchery in northern Nigeria.
Images may appear to be identical, but looks can be deceiving. The difference is not always obvious. It has to be discovered. There are always different sides to a story. We put the focus on the details. To see more, to understand better. CGTN. See the difference.
There's more to this place than just glorious landscapes. There's more to it than just, say, Table Mountain or glorious, endless salt flats. There's more to it than countries that are home to some of the deepest mines in the world. There is so much more to this place, even if it is home to some of the finest diamonds on the planet. It is the sheer diversity of the people who call Southern Africa home and the relentless drive to make it a better place that make it so special. And we know that because this too is home. No one knows Southern Africa like we do. CGTN. See the difference.
Northern Nigeria boasts of a huge number of fish farmers, but none is into tilapia fish farming. Many consider it quite difficult, but one retired civil servant in the northern state of Nasarawa is trying to change all of that. Here's CGTN's Deju Badmas with his story.
This is the very first functional tilapia fish hatchery in northern Nigeria. It's pioneered by this man, a retired civil servant.
What we have here is the incubation system. And you can see some eggs here. And when eggs are collected from the mouth of the fish, tilapia are mouth-brooding fish. So we go to the brooding section and we get them, and we physically collect the eggs from the mouth. And we bring them here. So we stimulate the mother's mouth here until the eggs are hatched.
It's a complex but fascinating process. Hassan Mundu and his team are operating in a region of Nigeria known more for catfish farming, while tilapia fish is imported. It's that importation that Mundu is aiming to stop by getting fish farmers in the region to take to tilapia fish farming.
In fact, almost all farmers we have in the country are catfish farmers. So we are sensitizing them to breed tilapia. Everybody knows about tilapia, but when it comes to farming it, they don't know. So that is what we are doing. That's the sacrifice we are making.
At the very heart of the operation of Mundu's tilapia fish farm, especially the hatchery, is power. Without constant and uninterrupted electricity supply, it would be impossible to run the hatchery, And that's where the services of Jamada Vawa comes in. He runs a solar startup known as Solar Boss. His solar farm did not only install the solar system that drives Moodys fish farm, it also installs the entire water reticulation system for the hatchery.
The whole hatchery production line has to have a continuous flow of water, and water is life, so that actually brought my interest into it. And a lot of farms these days are trying to go into renewable energy, trying to see how the reticulation system works for their own farms.
We cannot use the electricity because it's too expensive and it's erratic. So we opted for the solar system, and it's been working for us. The circulatory system is working fine, and we try to apply it not only in the hatchery, but also at the outgrower system.
It's a partnership that is producing positive results and keeping the fish farm in operation. And on the marketing front, Mundo says his initiative is beginning to gain traction, with his farm doing an average of 100,000 eggs per month.
By the time you come here in the next 2 years, you'll see that people will no longer be testing, people will be breeding tilapia. We have a lot of potential to do fish culture in the country, and we also have the market. So it would not be nice for us, with the size of the market we have, to be importing fish.
Nigeria imports an estimated 3.32 million metric tons of fish every year, something the government is doing everything to stop by encouraging local fish farming. Mundo says he hopes the government also patronizes fish farmers like him for fish seeds to replenish the fish stock in the country's water bodies. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Nasarawa State, Nigeria.
Shack fires kill thousands of people in South Africa every year. This is largely because most informal dwellings are erected with flammable materials and in very close proximity to each other. The risk of a small fire moving rapidly is high. A South African entrepreneur has come up with a simple yet innovative solution to stop these fires. CGTN Sumitra Naidu has the details.
There's over 2 million shacks across South Africa, but it's not an even spread, especially in townships that are heavily populated. There were over 5,000 shack fires reported across the country since 2017. Local businessman Toli Altunis really wanted to curb these fires.
The idea was born in 2015 when a massive fire broke out in Khayelitsha and brought down over 1,000 shacks, and some children died and some adults too. And it was right then and there that we decided that we needed to come up with a solution.
It came down to simple chemistry for Altunis and his partners.
The product has 2 raw materials. It's acetic acid, which is vinegar, and sodium hydrogen carbonate, which is baking soda. When you mix vinegar and baking soda together, you produce carbon dioxide, which is what we use to extinguish the flames.
It is fairly small. It can't exactly be used to put out a massive fire, but it is most effective in the home for the small fires, which can actually turn into real disasters.
The fire extinguisher can be used outside of the home too. It can be carried in the car or onto a boat. It's safe and non-toxic, but most importantly, it's very affordable at just under $2.
We have invented the world's first safe, cost-effective, easy-to-use mini fire extinguisher, but because we're a social project, we believe that we need to tick all the boxes. We have very low energy costs when we manufacture. Our entire production process is manual because we believe in creating jobs. We have already signed an exclusive distribution agreement into North Africa, but the product has potential to be a global product.
I think this product can assist in a location because most of the location has filled places with kids like to play with fire. So that's going to ban many shacks.
The product has been independently tested by the Council for Science and Industrial Research and is deemed safe and effective to fight Class A and Class B fires. Altunis is now hoping to get buyers and sponsors so that Put It Out can be in every shack across the country. Sumitra Naidu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And finally, a look at the currencies. The South African rand rose strongly in early trade today as investors were relieved that the country had escaped a downgrade to junk status from ratings agency Moodys after the market had closed on Friday. It traded at 14.79 to the US dollar. That's about 1.5% up from last Friday's close. And with that, we call it a day here on Global Business. We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback. Send that to the contacts on the screen and follow us on our digital media platform. I'm Peninah Karibe. Thank you for watching.